Quirky television it is, but you can learn an awful lot from watching Mirador television. Join us!
Time for some quiet contemplation of how things were, not just before the coronavirus struck, but perhaps 50 years before that, when England was still quite an old-fashioned country. In the 1950s and through to the 60s, our refuse cart at home was still pulled by a shire horse. The coalman's dray was pulled by 2 shires. Interesting. But then telecommunications has boomed too. When I was in my early teens, it was impossible to ring Cuffley, a town in Hertfordshire about 20 miles from where we were. One couldn't ring Cuffley direct. One dialed a code. The Cuffley telephone exchange answered with, "Number please," and you would tell them that you wanted 2895, and they'd tell you it was busy or they'd put you through. The same for Borough Green in Kent, and also Epsom in Surrey. And also into the 80s, the 1980s, parts of southwest Scotland still had 3-figure telephone numbers. You could preface them where I lived by the code for Stranraer and thus use STD, but when call divert came in, we could only divert calls to numbers on the same exchange. And going back a few years before that, in Newton Stewart, the town down the road, the exchange was in the back of the pub. And the 2 lads who ran the exchange saw everything that was going on. And you could ask for Newton Stewart 2-1, and they would say, "Oh no, we've seen her go to the shops, she won't be back for an hour or 2. And going back pre-war to Borabui in Cork County, my friend Anne's father was the village doctor, and he was remonstrating with a patient one day on the phone. "Oh, you'll have to speak up, woman, I can't hear you." And the timorous voice of the operator, who was listening in, said, "I can't hear her either, doctor." What interesting times they were, and how suddenly subscriber trunk dialing and automatic exchanges completely changed the pace of everything. Let's consider now Good Friday, surely in the Christian calendar the most holy day of the year. And I remember into the 1980s and beyond, shops, if they opened at all on Good Friday, closed at 1 o'clock. Now, shops open as though it's not a day at all for respect and thought and contemplation. They do, however, the supermarkets, all close on Easter Sunday, which is actually, surely, a day of rejoicing. I really don't understand who drafted those laws, because I still think Good Friday is a day when shops should shut or should shut early. But we are more a secular country now than anything else. And of course, this year, Passover coincides with Easter. Now, the Jewish calendar is still works on lunar months, and so there are 13 months in the Jewish year, which is why the festivals of Passover and Hanukkah may coincide occasionally with Christian festivals, but otherwise they don't. So I'm sitting here just thinking about how things were and how it has changed beyond recognition. To anyone under 30, the idea of having to dial a code for a town, then wait for the operator to answer and connect you, seems absolutely silly. And I've seen film of today's younger citizens not being able to understand a dial telephone. Well, and party lines, do you remember those? It was a cheap way of getting a telephone, except you couldn't ring when the other party was using the line. You had separate numbers, but it shared a line to the exchange. Look back and think how things have changed in your lifetime too, and just spend a quiet weekend contemplating. Thank you.